Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to Evansville, the 2 a.m. tornado nightmare. I mean, I've never heard of this before, but a 2 a.m. tornado, I mean just late night tornadoes where it's dark are obviously the scariest. But this looks like it was extremely damaging as well. But the thing is with these, people will be asleep, you're not going to be able to see anything. There's just so much around these tornadoes that just make them even scarier. And looking at the damage, yeah, it seems like this was a pretty strong one. But we're going to check this out and see and learn about this tornado. Maybe it was a number of tornadoes, or if it was an outbreak, or it was just one. But yeah, let's jump into this and see what this specific tornado did and just how damaging it was.
Been proven by researchers to be death traps in the face of even the weakest tornadoes. What happens when a violent tornado goes through a neighborhood full of them at 2 in the morning? It's early November 2005. Temperatures are slightly above average across the contiguous United States. Peak fall colors have reached the southern Appalachians.
That's beautiful.
While the first and second of the month were quite rainy, drier, warmer conditions prevailed by midweek and were enjoyed by many as colder weather was inevitable. Meteorologists saw a clear pattern change starting that weekend. A larger trough of colder Canadian air was to swing down from the Rockies and push eastward across the Midwest, Appalachian Mountains, and New England. Temperatures would take a nosedive in the Dakotas, lake-effect rain would ensue on the lee shores of the Great Lakes, and quite possibly some storms would fire along the cold front. In fact, the environment was decent for severe storms. This time of year is known as the second season, due to a return of the three big ingredients for tornadoes: surface moisture with cooler air aloft, wind shear due to a diving jet stream, and lift due to strong cold fronts. November 5th in particular looked mildly interesting. The advancing trough in the jet stream would push south over Texas, spinning up a surface low which would ride the trough to the east. While the wind speed would increase with height, known as speed shear, the wind direction wouldn't change that much. This directional shear is crucial for tornadoes. However, temperatures and dew points were forecast to be in the mid-70s and low 60s ahead of the cold front. Severe storms were absolutely in play. A deciding factor may be the storm mode. Would there be a linear line of severe weather or discrete cells? By overlaying the modeled cold front in the 0 to 6 kilometer shear vector, we can guess that a linear mode would be likely, such as a squall line. This would be a fast-moving cold front, and storms would be pushed into each other along the line as they moved northeast. The downdraft of these storms would likely cause a damaging wind threat, and so a slight risk was issued for the afternoon and evening of November 5th for the increased damaging wind.
So people would have got a warning for the evening, so I guess people would have had a slight idea that something could happen, but I don't know if fully they realized that it would go into the night or what.
Threat. No big deal. Keeping all the data used to make these videos organized is always a difficult task. Thankfully, Opera has completely changed the game.
Give that money, baby. Get that money. Love that. Oh, it's not loading. Great.
Woke up that morning of the 5th to humid air and foggy skies, noting the chance of severe storms late that evening. Temperatures rose and partly cloudy skies covered much of the Ohio River Valley by the afternoon. By 4:30 p.m., a weak outflow boundary, or a pocket of cooler air, pushed through west central Missouri, pushing this warm surface air up into the atmosphere, creating a cluster of storms. The National Weather Service issued a tornado watch 20 minutes later. While the tornado threat was still relatively low, the thought was the potential would be maximized before the storms formed a squall line. But this isn't always the case. Sometimes storms form in a less than ideal environment, but then move into an area with strong low-level wind shear. Even if these storms have formed a squall line, they are more likely to produce tornadoes once they reach the better environment. However, the tornadoes are less likely to be violent. This is exactly what happened on April 28, 2025 in southern Minnesota. Watch how this line of storms becomes wavy as it moves east into a highly sheared environment. What you're seeing is strong southerly winds at the surface rush into the base of these storms, creating inflow notches. Each one of these storms with an inflow notch has the potential to drop a brief tornado, but the chances of these tornadoes being violent or long-tracked are incredibly low. Back in Missouri, these storms continued to meander across the rolling hills, producing 2-inch hail in Monroe County. And by 8:30 p.m., the northern storms had formed a solid line. The southern storms over the Ozarks were still discrete, producing large hail looking pretty potent on radar. The two northern storms produced 5 weaker tornadoes near the Missouri-Arkansas border, knocking down trees in the heavily forested, sparsely populated hills. But then, by 11 p.m., the storms had weakened. A severe thunderstorm watch remained for the Mississippi and Ohio River valleys, but that too was canceled at 11:30. In Evansville, it was...
So basically the warning signs were gone then. People, I guess, weren't expecting anything to happen. If you were paying attention to the forecast, I guess at this point you're thinking you're good to go to sleep.
Quiet, warm, and muggy as residents went to bed. But high in the atmosphere, a major change was occurring. A fast-moving band of winds within the jet stream called a jet streak had moved east at breakneck speeds, wrapping around the trough axis, which was beginning to exhibit a negative tilt. As these winds spread out across the Ohio River Valley, the column of low pressure stretching towards the surface deepened rapidly. Warm, moist air rocketed northwards into southern Indiana and Illinois. Dew points reached 63 degrees by midnight. While the arrival of the jet streak was expected by Weather Service forecasters, the storm mode was not. 3 discrete cells still existed along a broken line near the confluence of the Ohio and Mississippi rivers just after midnight. The 60-mile, highly sheared corridor to the east boasted storm relative helicity values of 370 meters squared per second squared, which could re-intensify these storms, invigorating their rotating updrafts and quite possibly produce a few significant tornadoes. Storm relative
I guess that's what's happened then. Look how beautiful that looks, by the way.
Helicity measures the potential for rotation within supercells. During the cold season, from November to April, parameters don't have to be off the charts for tornadogenesis. This corridor is what's known as a low Cape, high shear environment. When looking at the temperature profile of the atmosphere, the Cape, or potential energy, is proportional to how fast air from the surface will rise in a storm's updraft. The faster it rises, the stronger the updraft, the healthier the storm, and the more likely tornadogenesis will occur. Several studies, including one by Jonathan Davies in 2007, have shown that not all Cape is created equal. The vast majority of mixed-layer Cape is located between 3 kilometers and the equilibrium level, the point at which surface air stops rising freely in the atmosphere. But the potential energy that exists below 3 kilometers, albeit a fraction of the overall Cape, may play a much more important role in cold season tornadoes. Of the 835 joules per kilogram of Cape in
This is a lot of maths, bro. I was not expecting to get a maths lesson, but this guy knows his shit.
Atmosphere near Evansville, Indiana that night, 60 joules per kilogram was measured below 3 kilometers. When looking at a myriad of significant cold season tornadoes, these numbers are very near the median values of total mixed layer Cape, low-level Cape, and storm relative helicity. When the low-level Cape dips below 60, the chances of a cold season tornado appear to plummet. The storms are now moving into the primed corridor, and within a few reflectivity scans develop the classic kidney bean shape of a rotating supercell. At 1 a.m., the northern supercell developed a broad mesocyclone on the southwest flank of the storm. Moving northeast at over 60 miles per hour, the circulation crossed into the Ohio River Valley, where it likely experienced a small increase in southerly inflow due to topographical convergence. Small disturbances as such can induce tornadogenesis, and that's exactly what happened in the southern floodplain of the Ohio River Valley. At 1:32 a.m., the National Weather Service issued a tornado warning for Henderson and Posey counties along the Ohio River. A tornado touches down northeast of Smith Mills and churns through the fertile soil. The first structure to be hit was a home along Green Road. The entire second story was lifted and the exterior walls were removed, exposing the living room, water heater, and kitchen. A tree limb was embedded within the wooden siding. A pickup truck was rolled several hundred feet northeast through a field. Across the way, a barn was folded with twisted sheet metal scattered across the grass. The tornadic winds remained consistent at above 150 miles per hour after crossing the Ohio River, and then
the National Weather Service in Paducah, Kentucky has issued a tornado warning.
So with this, is this something that will just pop on your TV? Because I don't know how this would go down. Like, say, like, you're asleep. I mean, nowadays it's your phone, right? Your phone will get a warning and it'll wake you up. Which, firstly, I can't think of anything scarier than that, because the sounds and the siren sounds that it make are so scary. Like, it's like sort of like end of world sort of siren sounds. Like there's a nuclear attack or something. But say like 20 years ago, what is giving people's warnings other than the tornado sirens? But would that be enough? People are asleep in bed at 2 a.m. What's going to wake you up? I don't know if the TVs can just turn on, but you always see like the things of like when there's a nuclear disaster, sort of the TV puts a warning out. Is it kind of like that, or I just don't understand.
Warning for southern Vanderburgh County in southwest Indiana until 2:15 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Except something might have been wrong with NOAA weather radio that evening. Evansville EMA reported they received no alerts for the approaching storms on their weather radios. When the Vanderburgh County warning was finally issued, EAS was activated on all television and radio broadcasts, again at 1:45 a.m. Not many people were watching. The sirens did sound at approximately the same time the tornado left cycloidal marks in the fields along the river. Chief Meteorologist Wayne Hart was live on News 25 showing the path of the circulation, urging residents to seek shelter. Although this was a few years before dual polarization radar was introduced, and having no damage reports for the first few minutes of the warning, Wayne had a suspicion that the velocity signature he was seeing was, in fact, an ongoing tornado. The tower cam, located along the river, was quite close to the tornado, however was unable to see through the heavy rain and hail. With winds steady at just under 150 miles per hour, the tornado struck the grandstands at the Ellis Park Thoroughbred racetrack. At 1:59, the Weather Service extended the radar-indicated tornado warning into Warwick County to the east, but the Weather Service had not received any confirmation of damage. Flying northeast, the tornado stayed south of Interstate 69, avoiding the entire Evansville metro, except for the single low-income community severed from Evansville by the interstate. The Eastbrook trailer park, consisting of over 300 mobile homes and RVs, was directly in the path of the tornado. The over 150-mile-an-hour winds were well above the threshold needed to pulverize a mobile home and kill anyone inside. And this is where the tragedy occurs. Brandy Moorfield, a stay-at-home mom, was buried under rubble. Glenda Sprinkle, who was staying with their son Denzel, one of the first to be hit by the tornado. Hilda Simmons, a retired pediatric nurse at St. Mary's Medical Center. Beverly, Jean, Brandon, and Isaiah Blaylock were killed instantly. Patricia Jones, a parish nurse at the St. Mary Catholic Church. Glenn Reed, a casino dealer in 4 states. Jesse and Emily Donner, a father and daughter, Emily being only 6 years old. Laura Ferguson, tossed 2 blocks by the twister. Initially thought she was okay, but fell victim to internal injuries 6 weeks later.
Whoa.
Matt Polk, a former Navy Seabee engineer who was visiting his girlfriend Melissa at the time. Kyoko Duncan, a Japanese immigrant mother. William Scholar, a former St. Louis homicide detective. C.J. Martin, a 2-year-old boy, along with his grandmother Julie and great-grandmother Jean. Amy and Michael Holbert, who had just purchased their mobile home a week prior. Michael's body had been thrown 100 yards into the retention pond to the south of Eastbrook and was found when the pond was drained a day later. The tornado had now managed to strike the worst possible place, at the worst possible time, on a night where a line of gusty storms was the expectation. The southern half of the trailer park lay unrecognizable, with many modular homes wiped clean off their concrete lots. Bodies lay in the fields surrounding the retention pond. Insulation dangled from nearby trees like Christmas ornaments. Residents on the north side of Eastbrook described waking up to what they thought was an earthquake. 70 animals were recovered from the mobile home park in the coming days. As the tornado flattened the forest at Angel Mound State Park, a bolt of lightning lit up the sky behind the funnel. A security camera 2 miles northeast at the Deaconess Hospital captured the only image of the tornado. A large cone with heavy rain directly behind it. Crossing into Warwick County, the vortex spent only a couple seconds atop each home in southwestern Newburgh, peeling roofs, blowing out windows, and snapping tree limbs. It paraded through central Newburgh, exploding poorly constructed homes near the narrow center of the vortex. Ron Karn on Elm Drive had his shirt physically removed from his body by the powerful winds. When his sister Kim helped him dig through the wreckage, she found one of his old grade school report cards containing a pencil sketch of a tornado. A remarkable coincidence. 90 seconds after
What?
leaving the Newburgh residential
What
area,
the fuck?
the tornado reached its maximum intensity, slicing the Van Road Industrial Park. Ballooning to over 500 yards in width, the over 170-mile-an-hour winds gutted several warehouses, leaving warped steel support beams in its wake. Semi-trucks were rolled and crumpled like soda cans. A few miles to the northeast, Melinda Hadley was asleep in her family home on South Yankeetown Road. She and her father Carrie had returned from a wedding in Jasper a few hours earlier. After chewing through the forested hill to the west, the tornado slammed into the small house, lifting Carrie and Melinda into the air and dropping them into the field behind their home. Melinda, only 18 years old, passed away from a severe head injury upon impact. At 2:11 a.m., the National
My
Weather
God.
Service issued a subsequent tornado warning for Spencer County to the east, and this time the tornado was confirmed. Moving at 55 miles per hour, the twister approached the rural community of Dagonia Springs. Cheryl and Jeremy Warren lived on France Road in their mobile home with their 4-year-old son Isaac. When the tornado hit, their mobile home exploded and they all suffered severe injuries which led to their death. Unfortunately, Cheryl was 8 months pregnant. When she was eventually found, doctors rushed her to the hospital to deliver the stillborn baby, Elena Warren, who would be buried in the casket with her mother. In a matter of seconds, an entire family was gone.
Fucking
The cruel
hell,
twister
bro.
began to occlude south of Tennyson and lifted a few minutes later. The storm outran the narrow corridor of instability and would not produce another tornado. 25 people were killed in southern Indiana by this fast-moving, poorly forecasted tornado. When facing adversity, it often comes down to how you respond. Several incredible things happened as a result of this
This is
cruel
horrifying,
storm.
man.
The day of the tornado, James Gupton, an EMT from Virginia, had suffered a crippling heart attack and was in need of a heart transplant. Brandy Moorfield was an organ donor and happened to be a match. Soon after she was pronounced dead, her heart was harvested and successfully implanted into James, effectively saving his life.
Wow.
CJ Martin's mother, Catherine, realized that many mobile homes aren't equipped with NOAA weather radios. Catherine launched a campaign called CJ's Law that would require NOAA weather radios to be installed in all new and relocated mobile and manufactured homes. It successfully became an Indiana law in 2007, and while it made noise at the Capitol, it was never adopted at the federal level. But Catherine didn't stop there. She turned a school bus into a mobile safe haven for children who were affected by violent tornadoes. She named it CJ's Bus after her son, and it was on site in Tuscaloosa after the 2011 super outbreak, offering kids a safe space to play and feel at home. She is a hero in every sense of the word. Today, a memorial for the victims of November 6th stands at the edge of what is now the Waterford Point Mobile Home Park. While we have come a long way in tornado science since 2005, there's no safe way to shelter in a mobile home during a tornado warning. In this instance, nobody knew it was coming, so nobody left. There was nothing that could be done, and statistically speaking, it will absolutely happen again. Stay weather aware and stay safe.
Jeez, man. That was wild. I mean, it's quite nice to see like the stories at the end where like the organ donor and then she saves that man's life. But obviously it's still devastating overall. But this is a very well put together video, man. Damn, tornadoes just are so relentless. No matter what, they're gonna strike, and it's just about luck where you're located at the time. Like the people on like in part of the trailer park were fine, but the people who are located in the line of the tornado, just unfortunate. Realistically, you can't really. It is just luck, man. Fucking hell. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.